This is Get Sellers Calling You, and I'm Beatty Carmichael. Learn more at our website at getsellerscallingyou.com. Hey there, I'm Beatty Carmichael, and welcome to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast, as always. And I'm excited today with my interview with another client of mine, and just a really strong producer, top producer named Ed Finlan out of Northwestern Washington. So, Ed, say hello.
Hey, Beatty, how's it going today?
Well, I am doing great, and it's so great to, what's funny with these interviews, especially if you're watching on the YouTube on the video part, is I actually get to meet some of my clients for the first time in person. Okay, because normally all I have is a professional photo, and Ed, I can say you don't look anything like the professional photo.
Well, today I'm doing my Grizzly Adams impersonation. Huh?
I love it. But you look great. So I probably don't look anything like my professional photo either.
I would have recognized you in a grocery store. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Well, I would have recognized you too. We both have kind of the same haircut up top. So,
True.
and for those of you who've never seen me or Ed, we're both hairless on the top. So, but anyway, Ed's been, as I mentioned, a real top producer. He's been real aggressive with his business, and I wanted to have him share some of the things he's doing, because it's been, as you build your real estate business, you want to look for multiple channels of income that you'll have maybe your personal business, a niche business, and other channels, because in the totality you can drive a lot of business. And Ed has really mastered several. So I wanted to share that with you. Also, just a real quick reminder, this is an internet call, so please pardon any type of interruption. So, Ed, let me turn the call real quickly over to you. I'd love if you could just share with us a little bit about yourself and your career, and kind of, who are you? Who is Ed Finlan?
Sure. So I grew up in Western Washington here in a little town called Arlington, and then I was a police officer for not quite 20 years. I was a K-9 officer, and did appraisal for a couple of years. My dad and brother and I were builders as well during that time. So I kind of had a experience that brought me into real estate. I've been doing real estate for almost 20 years. And just having a good time doing that. I have a small team here. We work the 4 northern counties not on the peninsula side of Washington, so from the Canadian border down. I try not to go into Seattle, but on occasion. So I do that. Married, have 2 of my own and 2 stepchildren, and have a couple, 3 grandkids actually.
Wow! So you've got a house full, and you do somewhere, generally speaking, 75 to 100 transactions a year. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I've done more and I've done less, but that's kind of what I've been averaging the last several years.
Okay, cool. So I want to find out, because a lot of agents never get to that level, and a lot of those who do get to that level, they spend a lot of money in advertising and pushing out just a whole lot of money trying to drive in leads. But you've taken a little bit of different approach. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I'll be honest, one of my weakest links is working my sphere, which working with Beatty, I'm trying to remedy that. But I have worked a lot of with expireds and for sale by owners and farming areas, that kind of thing. But so what I was taught was to have a stool. If you just have one leg on your stool, it's a very unsteady stool. Okay. You only have 2, that's still pretty unsteady. So you should have 3 ways at least of business coming in, so that stool isn't going to fall over. And the more legs you have, the more steady it is.
And those legs are those different income streams I was talking about. And I think that's a perfect example. We got to have at least 3. Mm-hmm. I want to focus in, because in our conversation before this call, you're mentioning that a lot of your focus has been on expireds and FSBOs. And while I know there's a lot of stuff out there on expireds and FSBOs, it's really been fun talking with you, and exactly kind of what you do. So I'd like to peel back the onion a little bit. Can you tell us just a little bit, maybe pick, whether it's expired or FISBO, if you do them separate differently, and talk about what is it that you have found that really works for you to drive business there, because it's been very consistent for you over the years.
Well, the main thing is to not give up. You can't just call them one time and they say no and then give up. Okay. They don't know, they're not rejecting you. They don't know that they need your help yet. Okay. They're rejecting what you're saying right this second. They may not reject it tomorrow morning. So you just need to keep going, and don't think of it as what's in it for you. Think of what's in it, that how you can help them. Just help people and God will help you. Okay. So you're going to just take care of the people, take care of them in whatever way. And the universe, God, however you want to look at it, is going to take care of you. So, that's my main, it's just don't give up. I call them. If I have their email, I email them. I send them letters. If I can find them on social media, I try and interact. I don't just friend them right away. I try and interact with them, and then maybe eventually friend them. But it's just a long way of adding to your sphere is what it is. You got to take it.
So let me ask. So let's say I'm an expired. Okay. Talk to me in terms of what have you found to be the process? Because I'm sure while you do a lot, there's probably a sequence that you go through where you initiate, and then and you probably have some sort of a tickler system that prompts you when to recontact. Can you kind of outline what your system is and the approach?
Sure. So there's numerous different systems and dialers. I happen to use one called Vulcan 7. It's got a dialer in it. It's a little CRM management as it well. I can send emails out of it, and I'm not saying it's good. I don't get a penny for, there's other ones. Mojo's fine too. But the key is to follow up consistently and do it in every way that you can. So if it's, pretty close, you might even bring them your packet or a book or whatever that you're going to use as an item of value, and leave and drop that off with them, because very few other people are doing that. You're not going to call them list with me. So it's not fair to judge people on, their religion or their skin tone or the, where they're from or that kind of thing. But I'm perfectly fine judging people on their motivation. Okay. So I'm going to separate them based on where I think they are in the process. So why were they trying to sell to begin with? Okay. Where were they going when they sold? And we got to focus back on that, as opposed to, I'm not doing this anymore.
So now this is assuming, so when you're reaching out to them, are you actually able to engage in conversation with them? Are they picking up the phone and answering, and then you're having this conversation?
Well, I mean, not every single one, but I would guess, I'm trying to remember what the number is, probably about 1 in 8, 1 in 10, actually.
Okay.
And then I just, on my voicemails, I don't get into this big thing. I just, hi, my name is Ed. I have a interesting question about your house on Maple Street. Hi, my name is Ed. Could you give me a call back? I have an odd question about your place on Maple. I changed odd, interesting, weird, that kind of thing, to entice them to call me back.
I love it. So you're not saying, hi, this is Ed. I'm a real estate agent. I want to sell your house. You're saying,
not at all.
I love it. Okay. So you use, we call it a curiosity approach. Okay. Oh, by the way, here's another one that works really well. Hey, this is Ed. I was calling about your home. My number is such and such and such and such. And hey, I had this real question. And you hang up on it right there. And we call it the hang up approach, and it always gets phone calls back.
Yeah. And so they're calling you back and they go, well, what's your weird question? And it's, well, if I had a buyer that and met all your needs, including the price, would you still sell your home? That's it, easy enough. And if they say no, then their motivation is low, and I'm going to put them down on the C or D list. I'm not going to give up on them, but I'm going to spend way more time on the A's and B's.
I love it. So now you're clarifying. So that's the motivation. We can first clarify, are they really interested in selling right now? Okay, so then if they say yes, what's kind of the next step at that point?
Okay, so refresh my memory, especially because a lot of times they're calling you back and you're not in front of your computer. And I just tell them, look, I apologize, I'm not in front of my computer. Remind me, you know, what what's the address again, so I can kind of maybe ring some bells for me. And what is it you want? What price were you hoping to get? Where were you move? Where are you moving to? You know, do you need any help with that? That kind of and ask them. My memory, I'm looking at your place. It looks like a great place. Why didn't it sell? And it's always going to be one of three things. One, it's the agent's fault. Two, it wasn't marketed properly. It's still the agent's fault. Well, actually, it's one of five things. So it's the market, which they'll blame, which right now you don't get to blame the market. Location, they acknowledge they're not in the best location. Third would be marketing or the lack thereof. And I always say it that way. So do you think it was the marketing or the lack thereof? Okay. Or how the home shows. Were you good? Were you happy with the photos? I couldn't find any videos on your home. You didn't do a video on your home. I couldn't find any drone photography on your home. You don't do drone photography. I couldn't find a 3D walkthrough on your home anywhere online. You didn't do a 3D walkthrough.
So you're selling what you do, creating doubt and question in their mind that maybe that's the problem. I love it.
And then sometimes they'll say the price. I don't think. Well, let me ask you, who chose the price, you or your agent? Now they always say the agent, but who knows? And sometimes it's a combination. But so it depends. I don't care which one of those five they say. Then that's what they think. So then I'm going to go down that road and explain how I'm going to do it differently and better.
I love it. So, so you mentioned being persistent. Okay, so you make this first phone call. You've engaged with them. They've called you back. You've been able to talk with them a little bit, and then in the typical format, what happens then? What happens next? How do you keep that ball moving, and how do you eventually get that listing?
So, Beatty, I understand that you're not interested in selling your home right away now, but we're getting into the middle of April, and you told me that you were hoping to be in Arizona, by summer. So, in your mind, how long do you think it's going to take to sell your home?
Gosh, I really don't know, Ed. It was on the market for about 4 or 5 months earlier. I really have no idea.
Well, statistically, in your price point, the average days to sold is 42 days.
42?
Yeah.
I was on the market for what, 5 months? 150 days?
Well, we can explore more into that, but I want to focus on you getting to where you want to go in Arizona. So if it takes 41 days, and then we're going to have another 30 to 45 days in the closing process and escrow, we're approaching 90 days. Well, if you're going to be there by June, we kind of need to get going now. So I'm just doing the math for them to think, you don't put your house on the market June 1st and move to wherever you're moving, even if it's across town the next day. So they don't necessarily think of it that way. So I put it in that. And then depending on, and you told me you're not ready. So what I'll do is I'm going to give you a call next week and kind of see if you still, because I know you've gotten a bunch of calls today from other agents. And so I'm going to call you next week, probably towards the end of the week, and kind of see where things are at. See if things have cooled down. I'm going to send you some information. I'm going to mail you some information. And then what's your email? And they almost always give it to you. And if they don't, they're a C or a D. Okay.
Interesting.
And then you're going to send them information by email as well. And then I don't, but my staff will go and stalk them online and see if we can find them, on different social media, and then trying to interact with them there.
Very cool. So so you're calling them pretty much at the point that they've just gone off the market. Is that correct?
Correct. I mean, so every morning we pull up the expireds and new FSBOs for that matter too, and we're calling them right away.
Okay.
And then depending on if they're an A, B, C, or D, I may call them the next day, or I might call them 2 days, or sometimes I didn't get a hold of them when I called them at 9 a.m. I called them at 3:30 or 4 that same day.
I love it. When I used to teach telephone selling many years back, and I tell them, I would teach my people, you know, you call in all 4 time zones, morning, afternoon, and night. And then you call them early morning, mid-morning, afternoon, evening, because at some point you're going to catch them. So you keep going. Yeah, I love it. So you engage with them, you get them on the phone, you start asking these questions, and the questions are kind of preloaded to create the doubt. Like, did you use drone photography, or did you do a walkthrough video? You didn't do that. So you're kind of creating that doubt that lets them know you're flabbergasted they didn't do the things that you do, right?
Well,
You're listening to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast. To increase sales from past clients and sphere of influence or from a geographic farm, learn about Agent Dominator. We guarantee your sales in writing or give your money back. To learn more, visit our website at getsellerscallingyou.com and select Agent Dominator from the menu. And now, back to the podcast.
True. I mean, the key to real estate, and here's the big secret, is knowing what to say. So practicing your scripts and dialogue, saying it enough times, and having enough people to say it to.
Yes.
That's it. Now you know the secret.
So now I'm curious. So you say in this role play we just did, you're going to call me in a week. What happens between now and a week? What are you doing?
They're probably going to get a letter that start. I have with expired, it's 6 letters, a 6-letter process. FSBO's it's 7 or 8, I forget now. That and I don't have anything to do with that. My people send those out, and they're on a. But when I call them, first time I put that they're an A, B, C, or D, and A's get letters sent every 3rd day, B's get every 5th, C's get it once a week, and D's get every 2 weeks. So they get these letters, and then they get put on an email or email. So the message is pretty much the same from the letter to the email, because who knows if they opened either one. So
good point.
You don't have to be worried about all new information. And they see it in an email. Okay, that makes sense. And then they see it in a letter to go, oh, wow, now this is really starting to make sense. So you don't have to worry about having 400 letters or emails or anything.
So now, are all the letters, each letter is different, or
there's a series of them, and so they talk about our guarantee we'll sell it in 39 days or sell it for free. We have our easy exit listing agreement. You wake up in a bad mood on Tuesday and you want to cancel, that's fine. And just go through what separates us from different people.
I love it. And then if, let's say that nothing happens, they have not gone back on the market, and it's now 30 or 40 or 60 days later, what are you doing with those at that point?
So, I mean, I don't keep sending the letters, but with emails, those I have a series of emails that can go on for months and almost a year, and I'm still calling them. And the key is to not give up. Okay, I used to have a thing that says so many percentage of sales are made on the first contact, and so many are made on the second, and the vast majority of them are made on like the 7th to the 10th contact.
Really?
Yeah, and I'll remember to email that to you. But anyway, it's right. I don't clean my office space now, but I used to have it sitting right in front of me. I had to look at it every day. But so my philosophy is I'm going to stop calling when I find out they're dead or they get a restraining order. I've hopefully set up some sort of a relationship. So even if they sold that house and bought another one without me, I'm going to keep contact with them so that maybe next time I get the call.
That's brilliant. And that's been so really this isn't rocket science what you're doing. I mean, it's structured. Okay, you've got scripts that you use, that you stay true to your script. You have a process just to keep touching them. But really, it's just not giving up. And if you don't give up, you eventually win it. Is that generally?
Yeah, I mean, you may fall, but as long as you keep getting up and keep going, nobody can stop you.
Let me ask you, so picking up the phone and calling people is often nerve-wracking for a lot of folks, and people say, I'll never do that. Were you ever that way yourself?
I still am. I can't say I enjoy it, but it's just part of the job. And so it gets easier the more you do it and the more you internalize your scripts and you know them, and it gets easier. And then when you have a success or two, then you get motivated to keep doing it. But I can't honestly say that when I come in here, I teach a class every morning, but after that, and I start making my calls, and I'm like, woo, I get to make calls. I mean, I tell myself that I approach it that way, but if I'm honest, I don't like it.
Yeah. Do you still ever get butterflies in your stomach when you pick up the phone?
I can't say I get butterflies. It's kind of like the first piano recital you have, or the first play you're in, or the first soccer game you're playing, or whatever. You're more nervous, and the more you do it, the less nervous you are.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I just wanted people to hear that you're not some superstar that you just eat it up all the time. But even now, after all these years, there's still that hesitancy getting on the phone. Because I do the same thing. When I have to get on the phone, there's that hesitancy, and the little butterflies start, flapping their wings and stuff. And you
no,
just
it's
got,
way easier to just goof around on the MLS or go on Facebook or do any number of other things than do what you're supposed to do. No, but you know, let me would you be hesitant in calling your sister?
of course not.
Well, how about your friend?
No.
Okay. What about a past client?
Nope, not at all.
Okay.
If it was a good relationship.
Right, of course. So all you're doing is you're just starting from scratch. You're just not opening the yellow pages. You're actually calling people that raised their hand and said, "I have a real estate need."
That's a great way to look at it. That's really brilliant, because if I'm a realtor and I have someone just raise their hand and say, "Hey, I have a real estate need. I'm interested in selling my house." Why would I not be willing to just pick up the phone and call that person? Because that's all you're doing.
And maybe I end up, well, this happened a couple of weeks ago, and this would have been a $1.3 million listing, which around here is a pretty big listing. And by the end of it, I'd convinced them that they don't, they should sell. They really should. They're older and don't need this huge house. But they were going to get the similar size house, but just with a smaller lot.
Hmm.
So, because he was getting to the age where he couldn't do the upkeep, landscaping, that kind of stuff. And they own this house outright. And she didn't want to clean upstairs. And I said, well, let's do the math. If we had a landscaper come, every 2 weeks, and a maid come once a month, because you never go up there, it's just the dust and that kind of stuff. And maybe she even does stuff down here. What is that going to cost? Well, if you're going to actually have a payment on this house and what you're paying every month in interest, just getting a landscaper and a maid, we figured out they're going to save $350 a month.
I love it.
They didn't sell the house, but they've referred 2 people to me since then.
That is fantastic. That's that's putting the client first, and I
Well,
applaud that.
most people in anything in life, not just this, is look 6 inches in front of their face instead of 6 miles out. If you
Yes.
look 6 miles out, you still see what's 6 inches in front, but most people get keyed in on what's happening right now instead of looking out there.
And that's one of the things I've really appreciated about you, Ed, is because you've been a client of mine for many, many years on this, and you've always had that long-term vision. So I really appreciate that. Hey, let me shift topics just a little bit. You mentioned your family
Sure.
and grandkids and adopted kids and things of that sort. How do you balance? Because you got a big business. It takes a lot of time. How do you balance your real estate business with your family needs?
Well, I'm pretty fortunate and blessed. I mean, I've been doing this long enough now that I'm not doing open houses. I mean, I do it when I'm training people or stuff like that. I'm not out showing houses on weekends that much and that kind of stuff. So I kind of work. I've even cut back. So I usually am here by 8 in the morning. And then I don't know, half the time I leave by 2, 3 o'clock. I can't remember the last time I actually worked 40 hours.
Wow.
But I've got a team that, that is hungry, and they get paid when they produce. And
Yep.
so they take a lot of that. And so the key is to even if you think you're going to be a solo agent the rest of your life, is you still need to build a team around you of people. You need to have somebody else in your office, another office that you trust enough that so when you go on vacation, you're on vacation. You're not ready to hire an assistant, and have a salaried or a W-2 employee. Then you're going to contract things out, because the reality is I know what my hourly wage is. Okay, figure out what I got on my 1099, divide that by how many hours I worked, and that's what you make an hour. And when you make 100,000+ a year, it's amazing what your hourly rate is. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so are you going to pay? And I'll just use 100. Okay, you're going to pay someone who you're paying $100 an hour to enter stuff into the MLS? Everybody says
Absolutely not.
okay, but if you don't have someone doing it, then you are.
Good point.
Okay? Know your hourly wage.
That's really brilliant. That's a wise way to look at it, and that gives you all kinds of extra time to focus on business and focus on family.
Right.
Talk to me. So you recently went through, recently, somewhere in the recent past, we were talking about this, some really kind of difficult times with your daughter, and we're talking about your relationship with the Lord. Can you kind of talk to us just a little bit about that and what this relationship with the Lord has really helped you through with?
Yeah. So my stepdaughter, who I raised from the time she was 7, had a baby, and then she died. And so we ended up adopting my grandson. So now he's technically my son. I get confused there what to call him, but anyway, and so that was a tough time, and I honestly believe that God knows when you really need Him, and then He is there, more so than on a day-to-day basis. Just like when your children need you more, you're there more than you would be necessarily day-to-day. And so, and I'm not sure how to put that into words of how, but I just felt Him more during those hardest times. And if you've never lost a child, you can't fathom what kind of agony and pain that is, especially when then there's another child. So, but I've been, I don't know, quasi-religious. I was an altar boy when I was growing up in the Catholic Church, and I wouldn't consider myself Catholic anymore. I would consider myself Christian. But so I've been in around organized religion my whole life. It's just I think of it as I'm going up the path of this mountain, and everyone on the planet, Muslims, Jews, whatever else, is just on a different path up to God. And I'm on my path, and sometimes it's pretty obvious the path goes to the left, and I've chosen to go to the right, and the Lord stayed on the correct path, and then my path entered back into His, and He never judged me or questioned me on why I didn't, follow Him. He acknowledged that I'm a fairly smart person and figured it out myself, but He just took me in His hand again and took me in His arms, and we just continued on the path. And then especially times like when Bianca died, He actually carried me. He gave me a piggyback ride. So,
I've often wondered how people go through really tough struggles without a relationship with the Lord. Can you imagine I'm not, if you did not have the Lord helping you through that time frame, do you think you would come out a lot different?
well, you're going to turn to something, and
Yeah.
that may be alcohol or drugs or just giving up on your job or gambling or and some of them won't necessarily be all that, maybe golf, or I mean, but you're going to lean on something. Maybe it's friends and family. But I don't know that would have worked for me. It's hard to say, but I'm just very happy and blessed that I do have Him.
Yeah, that's good. Well, on a brighter note, I didn't mean to take the conversation deep in that direction, but talk to me as we start to just kind of wrap up in terms of your relationship with the Lord, maybe how it impacts life as a whole. Is there anything, and there's no right or wrong answer, and there may not be any answer here, but just trying to get an idea of what does your relationship with the Lord mean to you?
Well, I try and approach life in that is I just try and help other people, and then God's going to take care of me. As long, if and I tell this to the people that I help train and mentor and people on my team is just treat everyone like you would your own children, or your best friend or your mom or whoever, and don't worry about the money. Don't and it was a little light bulb came on for me. I helped my mom came from a huge family, and so I have, I don't know, 50 some cousins, and shouldn't have a favorite, but my favorite cousin and her husband bought a house, and I still got paid and everything, but that wasn't my focus. My focus was to make sure that Monica had a great experience, and that this wasn't stressful, and this was not a horrible thing to happen, and they didn't talk about, oh my gosh, and buying a house is blah, and she did have that. And at that moment I went, why don't I just treat everyone like that? Not only my clients, but just everyone in my life. Why don't I treat everyone like that? And I've tried to do that since then.
Well, that's the biblical mandate. I don't do a great job, love your neighbor as yourself, and really try to treat them that way. So that's
Yep.
neat. That's neat. Well, I know the Lord has made, I've gone through a lot of struggles, but nothing like what you've gone through. Thank the Lord. And just the little things I've gone through, the struggles and the high times, I can't imagine doing it without him. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we close out the call?
I just would want people to not focus on these little niches like expireds and FSBOs and any, circle prospect. And those are all cool tools, and you should probably do them. Okay. But that shouldn't be your biggest focus. Your biggest focus should be the people your sphere of influence. I mean, statistically, I forget what the number is, 75% of all sales come from either past clients or referrals from friends, family, neighbors, people you go to church with. Why wouldn't you focus on that instead of the 3-5% that expires are, or the 2% that FSBOs are? Or, I'm not saying don't do them, but focus on what the biggest picture is. So, and I'll be honest, I'm the worst at this. In fact, I'm putting my money where my mouth is with you right now, getting on board, doing what you're doing. So, because I've fought it for almost 20 years, and now I finally went, okay, this is how you do it.
So let me penetrate into this a little bit more. So the folks don't know the story. So you just mentioned it briefly. You've been fighting, not targeting your past clients and sphere of influence for a number of years, and then something happened recently, and now you're all on board with it. What changed, and what do you see that's really driving you to go that direction in focusing toward your personal contacts?
Well, Gary Keller Williams Realty, talked at Family Reunion, a big convention we have recently, about where buyers come from and where sellers come from. And those are those stats that I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit on, because I don't remember the exact numbers, but that I recently competed against someone who their niece was the other agent I was competing. Well, how do you compete against that? Okay. And then there's something else that I'm drawing a blank that maybe you'll remember, that you can refresh my memory. But there were just three things that kind of came up, and I went, okay, I get it now.
Yep. I think I was telling you a story. I'll share it here. Another one of our clients is a guy named Ken, and he's one of the owners of the brokerage office down in Florida. And he's always been focused in geographic area and just community. And it took a while for him to get focused on his personal contacts. But the turning point He's coached, okay, and he's a top producer, still does coaching. And the coach got him and all of his other clients together on a call, and they went around and said, in the last year, where did most of your sales come from? And every single person on that call, except for Ken, personal list, personal list, personal list, personal list. And Ken finally got it and said, okay, if these guys are driving the bulk of their business from past clients and sphere of influence, I need to get on the board on the boat as well. So,
well, to me, that you think about your sphere as the cake, and all these other things as the frosting,
mm-hmm.
because if you just go FSBOs, expireds, and maybe geographic farming and that kind of stuff, when the market shifts, and it's gonna shift, okay, when it shifts, those things are gonna fall out. Then they'll come back, and then but what's never gonna fall out is your sphere.
That is so true. So, well, I think it's cool that you pursue these other legs of the stool. You're now going to pursue the sphere, and add that extra income stream. So, and I like to encourage those that are listening, as you mentioned, if you're not focused on your personal contacts, you really need to. This is actually not putting a plug about Agent Dominator, but this is the main, one of the primary focuses with what we do, because what are the stats? So there are 3 data points. I don't know if you know this, Ed, but there was a study that was done, one of my competitor studies, and one of my clients, and they all point to the same thing. That is, that person that you know who knows you is 8 to 10 times more likely to do business with you or refer you than that person you've never met. And it all points back to that sphere and those past clients.
Yep.
Well, great. Great way to end the call. So, Ed, thank you so much for being on the call with me today and for sharing.
Well, thank you for having me.
I've really enjoyed it. And for those who are listening, if you do like this podcast, please subscribe to it. If you're on YouTube or iTunes, please like it as well. And please be sure to like our Get Sellers Calling You Facebook page. And again, if you want to learn more about us or get more content on how to grow your business, just visit our website at getsellerscallingyou.com. Thanks for listening in. Thanks for watching. And Ed, thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Y'all have a blessed day. If you've enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe to it so you never miss another episode. And please like our Get Sellers Calling You Facebook page. Also, if you want to increase sales from past clients and sphere of influence, dominate a geographic farm, or convert home valuation leads, check out our Agent Dominator program. We create custom content that differentiates you from other realtors, then use it to keep you top of mind with your prospects with postcards, targeted Facebook ads, email campaigns, video interviews, and more. And the best part is we guarantee your sales or give all your money back. Learn more at getsellerscallingyou.com and select Agent Dominator in the menu. Thanks for listening to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast. Have a great day.